Okay. Now, we move into the roundtable discussion for the survivors here. Fred GARDAPHÉ, come
Sure.
on in.
All right. This has been an absolutely wonderful time. I did close my video so I could take off and get a little bit of lunch downstairs, but I kept the volume up so I could hear everything. So I was able to see everybody's at least hear everybody's performance. I want to conclude by talking about all the things, this whole experience from Marcello all the way to Bruno. I want to begin with a quote from Antonio Gramsci. We talked about the Southern question and so on. Gramsci writes, the starting point of critical elaboration is the consciousness of what one really is, and in knowing thyself as a product of the historical process to date, which has deposited in you an infinity of traces without leaving an inventory. Therefore, it is imperative at the outset to compile such an inventory. I used this quote at the beginning of my first academic book called Italian Science, American Streets, as a way of letting people know I'm not just talking about writers and literature and literary movements. I'm talking about myself, and you should be finding yourself inside this writing. I think all of us become writers because somewhere along the line, we found ourselves, and we found ourselves to be challenged as well through the reading that we did. T.S. Eliot once said that we read books because we cannot know so many people. And this is what happens. This is what happened today. This is why today was such a great event. From Marcella's documenting and finding things and showing us that writing dispels the notion of ignorance that so plagued our sense of the past. Not all the immigrants were ignorant. There are many, many, and you can find in the archives. My grandfather used to tell me his story of World War I. He went back to Italy and he took care of the horses during the war. We go to John Cavallone's book where he's talking about Sassano and in Calabria, a place where I've been actually. And his work has created this kind of rich harvest, which not only was for himself and his family, but has gone on for others. And he may not even have imagined how many other people he would have helped by writing it. And this is the key. Mary Gibson tells the story of her books, especially now, Against the Wind. It's like getting into old age is like going against the wind. But we have to have that kind of spirit that Mary has when she makes her presentation, and get beyond the kind of selfishness that other people may attribute to you talking about yourself. Because quite often we find inside other people's selves ourselves. C.J. Martello, I knew Mario Avignone very well. The man wore a bow tie every single day of his life, I think. He was a wonderful man, and I'm glad to see that you're carrying on his work. It shows us that there's responsibilities to each new generation. Who will take over from you? So, CJ, I'd like you to think about that. Who's going to take over when you pass it along? Carol's work in terms of, the problem I had with Carol's talk was that I got so hungry from watching her food that I had to later on take a break and go get some. But she reminded me of a saying that my grandfather used to have to me. If he ever saw me taking an aspirin or something like that, he would say, let your food be your medicine and your medicine be your food. And this was very interesting during this COVID time. I quarantined with my son. He came from Brooklyn and stayed with me. And he wanted me to cook the meals that I used to cook when he was young. But we switched off cooking, and he ended up, so I cooked all the old standards in our family, mostly Italian food. But he came along and introduced me. He knows how to cook Vietnamese food, Mexican food, all different types of Asian food. And the Setonville play, which I'm glad I got a chance to see ahead of time, is a perfect example of giving voice and movement to photos, and not just presenting memories, but not being afraid to let the imagination push the memories. So Terry, I look forward to seeing that on stage. I think you did a marvelous job trying to get it at least into some form during this disaster. But I could just imagine it with professional or amateur actors on it. I'm looking forward to that. Giovanna, what can I say? I always love your work. Bitter Trades reminds us that migration is an ongoing story. And what I loved about your work and reading it was also how it relates to the overall Italian diaspora. Kathy Di Nicolo, fantastic. I've been teaching online on and off for about 20 years. This was the biggest challenge when we moved everything online, and where I teach, Queens College, they decided for the first time to accept online teaching. They were way behind in terms of other colleges. And I am just this week finishing a major workshop, a 3-week workshop on creating classes online and using all the different tools that are out there. At first I was rather frustrated by it and thought, maybe I should retire. But as I struggled through it and I got to learn the tools, I began to realize that these are exciting times, and we don't have to dumb down our education to put it into formats that students can digest. We can challenge them and using the tools that they already use. And I can't wait to read all your books. Gail, even though you're a German American, it's the kind of work you're doing is essential in terms of us understanding the past, not just in art history, but in Italian history. Making those characters come alive reminded me very much about another Chicago writer, Adria Bernardi. I don't know if you know her work, but she did a beautiful novel called The Day Laid on the Altar about a 16th century Italian artist. And your discussion of your work reminded me very much of that. And Rosa Maria D'Alfonso, The Apocalypse and COVID Days. I mean, both the books are just, your first work and then this Apocalypse of COVID Days reminds us so much that language is important. And I think most of us, it may be too late for some people, if they may see it that way, to learn Italian. But the greatest thing that happened to me in my life was going to Italy, thinking I knew Italian, realizing I didn't know Italian, coming back and spending about 4 or 5 years of studying it, because it's opened up a whole new world. So I think people should get her book in Italian, not wait for her to translate it, but and work on getting to know it. I'm really looking forward to this COVID Day book. And Dr. Cortes, you brought it all together, the body and the soul, the heart and the mind, getting back to the body. I'm about to go in for some hip surgery, and I've been trying to avoid it for about 1.5 years, but it seems inevitable. But what I've done, instead of lifting weights and doing my cardio, other cardio work, I began to do yoga. And I'm beginning to realize that, it's yoga is a way that we can get in touch with our body and our heart. And your presentation was absolutely wonderful. I want to say grazie mille to all the authors. I could sit and listen to you all day long. And thank you, Dominic and Anna and Jason for working us through this this first time process. I've been on many Zoom meetings. This went as smooth as most of them don't. So you have to give yourselves credit. Maybe it's beginner's luck, who knows? But certainly is promising, and I think we could do many more sessions like this throughout the year as a way of bridging the beautiful work that's being done at the Casa Italia with the work that's being done all over the United States. So I'm going to leave it there, and we'll have, I guess other people will comment. Dominic, you take over the moderation.
Yeah, I'd be glad to do that. I'm encouraged by the results of this, and I do thank Fred for, I mean, he is the expert on Italian-American literature. And I mean, all of you writers got some expert attention of the top person in the whole world on Italian-American writing. So we're very thankful to Fred. Fred has always been available at no cost, but I shouldn't advertise that, to promote the things that I've been involved in forever, going back 40 years. And I'm in fact inspired to think that maybe we should Zoom our espresso meeting, maybe a half-hour espresso meeting every Wednesday at 2:30 to just open it up to whatever is current that week, and have our friends join us from around, even when we get back to face-to-face meetings at the Casa Italia. Anyhow, there are a whole bunch of people out there still, survivors. So the survivors are, this is a time for survivors to speak up. Who wants to talk? Do we, how
A lot of attendees. Really made my day.
This was great.
Who's talking?
I think that's Richard. Richard Sasso. Do I recognize your voice?
That was CJ talking.
Oh, CJ. Well, I heard CJ the first time.
Oh, is Raphael there?
Rafaela is amongst us. We usually have very lively espresso breaks every Wednesday. So we'd like to continue this during this roundtable discussion. Unmute yourselves and try to participate in our discussion.
Hello.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very informative.
Identify yourself when you speak.
Richard, it was very nice. Very informative.
Oh, okay. Who else? And if there's anybody out there who has an idea for an Amazon book, we can help facilitate that. Give us clean files and clean pictures and captions, and we can create a book. We have redone the books of Casa Italia, the women's book, and the Reconstructing Italians in Chicago. We're in the process of redoing that, and it's available. It'll be available on Amazon at a lower price and as an ebook. So we're publishing. We're not perishing.
Carol, I wanted to say something to Carol, and that was that when my daughter gave birth to my first grandson, she came home from the hospital and they gave her all this canned food and stuff, and she didn't like it. She read the ingredients and she didn't like it, so she started making her own food and grinding it up, and took great pride in that. And I remember my mother doing that for us, and so it kind of skipped a generation. The same way my mother was born with a midwife, I was born in a hospital, but my children were born with midwives. So I'm wondering if you've had any opportunity to do like workshops with young pregnant women and get in, and because that's when to start. As your partner said, we can't start changing diets at the age of 30. It's time to get it right the first time. And yes, I noticed that my first grandson will eat anything now.
You know, the problem has become where the kids have got a separate menu from the parents, and then when the child is 5 or 6 years old, the mother's saying, eat your vegetables, and they don't want the vegetables.
Right.
You know, they want the chicken nugget or whatever it is. So yes, I have done workshops. I used to do cooking classes in my home for moms, all ages actually. And it was on Saturdays. And after about 3 years of that, my husband said, "You got to get this out of the house. It's too much." It was like a party every 2 weeks.
Right,
But
right.
I do a lot of public speaking.
Yeah, I think this new book is going to really be a big hit. There were some people I know online who have young children, and they said, "How can I get this book? How can I?" said, "I'll send it to you as soon as
Yeah. We're going crazy because the publisher's dragging their feet to send me the author's copy so I can approve it. So it's been on order. The publisher's had it now for 3 weeks, and I can't seem to get them to send me one. And if I let it go live on Amazon and there's any problem, it'll be
Right. No,
be
you got
ugly.
to see it. You got to see it. Good.
Yeah.
Very good. I look forward to it. It'll be
Can I,
presents to give to new mothers, new parents.
can
Peter
I say
Carroll,
something
tell
to
us something.
Carol? Carol? Can
Yes,
you hear me, Carol?
yes, Rosaria.
As a school principal, we see the increase in diseases such as obesity, cardiovascular diseases. So I think your book would come in very handy for the parents and for the teachers and for adults. So you would be welcome anytime to, if you are in Rome, when you can come, we would welcome you to be with us. It would be a very good idea.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you.
Hello, can I say something?
Yes,
This is Vincenzo. Hello,
Vincenzo.
can
Yeah.
I say something?
Parla.
Sto parlando. Okay, at the beginning of the discussion, Mr. GARDAPHÉ mentioned the power of words, and you had a long talk about that. I just want to add something. The Romans used to say, "Scripta manet verba volunt," which means this. I don't know if you're. I just wanted to. Scripta manet verba volunt, which
Right.
means words stay, but whatever sorrow goes away.
Right. The written word stays, but the spoken word flies.
And now that we are in the era of videos, I would like to add another addition to that statement, which is always true through the centuries, but nowadays we live in the 21st century. It should be scripta manet, verba volant, video circulant. Make sense?
Bravo, bravo.
Okay,
That's my addition to the discussion.
very good.
Words, okay, whatever. Words flies, writing stays, but video circulate.
Okay.
We gotta, ci dobbiamo aggiornare.
Okay, make a new one. That's yours.
That's
Jeanette.
my thing.
Can you hear me?
You've experienced more of these IA literatis than anyone I can imagine except for myself. So what's your feedback here?
I thought it was terrific. I was very pleased, and the presentations were very nice. And we're glad to have Fred here. We usually it's just the 4 or 5 of us listening and taking care of everything, but the presentations were excellent, and I've got a couple pages of notes just for myself. But I did finally get my little tablet going, but I can't get the video. I can't get the video on, so who knows?
We
I
want
will
to see you,
continue to
Jeanette.
persevere.
Well, I don't know what you're hiding, Jeanette, but we want to see you. It just
Yeah,
is there.
I've got a camera and everything, and it's still not showing anything, so who knows?
Gloria Nardini sends a
The Lord
message.
works in mysterious ways.
Yeah. Okay. Well, bring it to when we meet in person, which is at a date unspecified. Maybe we can correct it.
And we can have real coffee.
And real coffee, yeah. Who else is out there we haven't heard from? John Chiara, are you there?
I don't see John.
Okay, let's see. What about the Peter Perro? Tell us something.
Just to let everybody know, everyone has been unmuted and has permission to unmute. You may still have to go into your microphone settings or your microphone icon or your Zoom menu to make sure that you toggle that on yourself. You've been
Your
given,
microphone.
yeah, you've been given permission, but I can't actually turn on your mic. That's a privacy issue.
PC, this is Peter Perro.
Yeah, Peter, comments.
I was just waiting to get in. I think a lot of us are blocked at this moment.
No.
No, you aren't.
It's opening now. Now it just opened. Thank you. No, I'm really moved by this meeting. It's kind of awakened my sense of purpose and participation. I got to get back out to Stone Park. Is the coffee on Wednesday online? Can I Zoom on that?
Yes, we've been doing that. And send us your email address to send it to Jason.
Yes.
Jason, provide your email address on the chat, and you can join us for that, or maybe we'll just invite all of you
Great.
to that, and you can tune in at 2:30 on Wednesday for, I don't know, a slightly different version of it, but maybe we can just carry on the conversation, though in a smaller format of about 30 minutes or no more than 30 minutes.
All right. Good to get back and get active. Thank you for this. This is a real awakening.
Okay. How about you, Judy Kemp?
Well,
Are you?
yes, I'm here. Unfortunately, I had to take another Zoom at 11. So I missed a good portion of the presentations, but I'm looking forward to watching it on your Facebook page.
Yeah. Just to let the audience know, we published a volume by, what's his name? Your husband.
Carlo.
Carlo. Under the, and I don't know how it's been received. He bought us some books, has passed it around in the family, and it's available on online.
Making America.
Making America by Lombardo. Okay. I'm looking around for people who haven't had a chance to say anything. Messina 38, how are you doing?
Unmute. Casa, unmute.
Okay. Well.
Oh, can I say something?
Okay. Last one. Let's wind it up. We've spent 5 hours on here. No.
Is it me? Can I talk?
Yeah.
I like to get attention. That's why I talk. Okay.
Yeah.
When I was taking Italian in Italy, we used to do a lot of analisi logica and analisi grammaticale. And I understand in America things are different. You do something else to the sentence. So you parse it. You parse sentences in America.
Diagram a sentence.
You do what?
Diagram.
Diagram. I've never heard of
But
that
I don't
in
think
Italy.
they diagram them anymore.
In Italy, we don't diagram. We just analisi logica, analisi grammaticale. So I learned a new thing. And that's good, because if you're going to be a writer, you're going to have to be able to parse a sentence, put the nouns and verbs together, and things like that. I'm sorry, I talk too much. Bye.
Raise your hand if you think you can diagram a sentence today.
I can't do it. I wasn't taught in America to parse a sentence. I
will
was
never
taught to
do
do
that.
analisi logica, analisi grammaticale, which is different from parsing. I've seen it done, but I don't know what they're doing. Maybe if I pay attention, I'll understand.
Yeah. Well,
That's
God
my
bless you
addition, because
all.
if you're going to be a writer, you got to know how to do these things.
And it's
Hello.
really helpful for us to be able to get together. We share a common interest. Without this technology,
And especially if
we
you're gonna do
would feel
translations.
lonely and
Oh,
bored
yeah.
Hmm.
and maybe melted into the melting pot.
Oh, yeah.
So until
Oh,
we
God,
meet
no.
again, we have your email addresses. You have ours.
Yes.
Stay in touch. Ciao, bambini.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Arrivederci,
everyone.
grazie.
Grazie.
With all my heart.
Thank you everyone for coming.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, ciao.